Lao Tzu, actually the Old Testament, Isaiah. Hey, welcome to our YouTube page. So just really quickly, I want to let you know
I think we're live. I think we are. Mm-hmm. I have it titled wrong though. Oh. I wonder if I could change that.
but actually the old.
I have it titled wrong. Oh well. We're a little early. Hi, Nicole. Hi, honey. We're just gonna sit for a bit and we'll start at 7-ish. A little early. Hi, Nicole. I'm hoping some folks will join us on the Zoom page, but maybe not. You just might have me tonight to talk about meditations. It's way more fun if people come to the Zoom page. And some of the people who regularly come said they wouldn't be here tonight because of different reasons. Adrian, who's often here, won't be here. I'm going to ask James if he'll share this for me.
Can you send me the link?
It's actually posted in the Bowling Beyond page.
Okay.
And I am live already. Hi. Hi, Janessa. Nice to see you all. Yeah. So, gosh, it seems like a lifetime since last Monday. A lifetime. So much has happened. My weeks are very, very full. Very full. Can you hear me? Hopefully you can hear me. I'm thinking you can hear me. There we go. Yeah, hi, James. Can you hear me, James? Love it if you'd share this. And we're just about getting ready to start here. I'd say it's only 6:55, but close enough. I was just listening to an interview with Russell Brand and the gentleman who is been involved with TM for many, many years. I forget his name, but he's amazing, genius around meditation. And he talks about, not just the benefits of meditation on us, but the benefits of meditation on the planet. And that if the world is consciousness and we are spiritual beings, then when we meditate, we affect consciousness. And so what I'm hoping that we do tonight is that we when we do meditate, we'll meditate in a few minutes with an intention, and also I have a little confession to make in a bit. So yeah, I have a confession to make. I want to make a confession. And so if you hang around, I have a little confession to make. And yeah, those are my thoughts tonight when we do meditate. We'll see if we can do it with some intention, maybe to send love to all of the world, you know, to send love, maybe to, you know, people that are, to just bring calm, maybe, and love into people's lives that are around us. I've certainly in the last little while run into hello. Hey Nate.
Hey, David.
Hey buddy. You're in the house. Just hang on a second. Trevor, will you close my door? Thank you. Well, it's good that you're going to join us tonight, Nathaniel.
Yeah.
Are you going to find a seat?
Your little company. Yeah, I'll find a seat. I might have to get up from time to time because I'm making some spaghetti here.
Well, will you meditate with us?
Yeah. When do you plan to meditate?
In about 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, that'll be good.
All right. So maybe while you're cooking, if you could close your screen. Yeah. And there we go. That's a good picture of you. And maybe if you could turn your audio off too.
Yeah.
Okay. So there we go. We have Nate's joined us, and he's actually one of my roommates, which is cool. And there we go. We're going to open it this way. I just wish that, I know there's lots of people watching, and it would be so cool if some of you joined us on this channel so that we can see how you're doing. How's your week? How's your life? How are things moving for you? I sent out an invitation earlier, and it would be great if some of you joined us and we could tune in a little bit to what's happening. For you in your life. Hey, Kathy, any chance you might join us on Zoom? That would be great if you did. I had sent the link to, Valley and Beyond on the Valley and Beyond page. It's right there. And I think I sent it out to a bunch of you individually. And it would be cool if you joined us on Zoom, a couple of you. But I'm just going to start. Interesting week, isn't it? I don't know if we're affected by the full moon that just went past. I suspect that we are affected sometimes on this planet by that moon. And I noticed a lot of kind of craziness out there, and maybe it was just in me. I spent some time on and a friend who, had gotten so kind of low that he was trying to commit suicide, take his life. And I hear there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of people who are really just in a tough situation and are losing sight of the possibilities on the planet, losing sight of what I believe is actually happening for us. And it's not that complicated. I think, for want of a better description, that we're on an adventure. This is an adventure. And like any adventure, we don't know what's next. On a really true adventure, do we know what's next? No, we don't. We're moving with the flow. We're on an adventure. So what if we could actually look at life and each moment see it as an adventure, as opposed to having this idea, and I think this is where we get stuck, that we having this idea that we know how things are supposed to be, or that we think that life should look this way, or think that life should look that way. And if it doesn't look that way, then we're not happy. We, in some way we can say that it's a failure, So we judge ourselves, we judge our life, we judge our results, we think, my gosh, I'm a certain age, I'm supposed to be married, I'm supposed to have kids, I'm supposed to be, and it's just bullshit. It's just bullshit. So, hey, James. Hey, buddy. I was just sharing. I don't know if you could hear me sharing. Can you hear me now? Hello. All right. So there's James. Hi, James. He's gone. So imagine, just for a minute, just imagine that you don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows how we're supposed to be or where we're supposed to be. We just made it all up. It's all bullshit. That we're supposed to be at a certain age, we're supposed to have this accomplished, or that we're, and we hold on to these ideas that were conditioned into us, were taught to us or shown to us by society. Okay? And this man this weekend who I spent time with, who was attempting to commit suicide. It's all about some idea that he isn't performing the way he should be performing at this time in his life. All a dissatisfaction based on a preconceived notion of how he's supposed to be performing, and by a preconceived notion, like just bullshit. So the only way out of that trap is to release all judgment, to let go of the idea that we know what's supposed to be happening. We don't know anything. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't even really know what did happen. We only have our subjective idea, like what we thought we saw. We don't really know anything. So if we can get to that place, we can just get to the place of surrendering the idea that we know. It's almost ridiculous how cocky we are about how things should be. Or if we think we're gaining success, how cocky we are about that. And if we think we failed, how we become despondent. It's just ridiculous. So I'm here to tell you that. One of the things that, I've been working with a lot of people lately, and I've realized that my job is not to help you solve your problems. My job is to help you rise above them, to recognize that they're only problems by perception. They're only problems by perception. They're not problems if we surrender our perception, our judgment, our idea, our preconceived idea. Then they're not problems. They're just events. They're just part of the adventure. Hey, James. So that's the deal, know that no matter where you are, and if you think for a moment that something's not exactly how it's supposed to be, it's a judgment. We're thinking often, oh, I'm alone, or somebody died. Grandma died, it shouldn't have happened. That's just a crock. And it upsets us. We get all in a tizzy and we get stressed. Stress is all about not accepting the moment. Period. Stress is about resistance. And if we resist, what we resist, it seems that persists. So how about we surrender? So yes, I know that Monday nights are like, the idea in Monday night is to meditate and to bring us to maybe to a quiet place. Or if there's people on the call who are not normally, meditators, I want to show you a bit about meditating and the benefits of meditating. One of the things I just heard, this David Lynch, I think was his name, who spoke to Russell Brand, and I just posted it, actually, the interview. And he said, let's look at a type of meditation that takes us deep into the stillness. So, and the analogy, he said, is that when the waves on the ocean are dancing and jumping and splashing, that's sometimes like our mind, full of concerns and so when we're in that part of our mind, when we're in the worrying or the fretting or the upsetness or the concern of the mind, and we're thinking, there's nothing can really be done in there. We're like being bounced around on the waves of the ocean. So when we meditate, we drop down into the ocean, into the calm, into the stillness in the ocean. And that's the analogy of we can't, if we deal on the level of the waves, we're always going to be bounced around. And I mean, that can be fun, but let's go deep in the meditation. And when we drop down into that calmness, which is deep inside of us, the idea of be still and know that I'm God. Be still and drop down inside and find out, to feel that connection, that oneness that we're all part of, that our natural state is a state of oneness. Hi, Trevor. And so that's what, the idea is to find that state, to drop into that space. And if you're a reasonably new meditator and you're thinking, or I've tried to meditate before and my mind is too busy, and recognize that we all can have busy minds, the monkey mind. It's always, trying to organize and trying to, so when we drop past that, something happens. First of all, physically something happens in our frontal cortex. Our brain actually begins to change. That's the one thing that, it actually physically affects our brain. And the next thing is that we start to connect through meditation with the oneness around us. I think we all, even if we don't know the words, agree that there is a consciousness, that there is, and and we're all plugged into it at one level. And I think, who was it the other day that said, oh, often I'll think of somebody and then the phone will ring. So where did that come from? Were they thinking of us and we picked it up before the phone rang, or we think of them and they decided to call us? But we're connected. And that connection isn't related to space, so you can be connected to somebody, in Asia right now. The way that things move in the consciousness is there is no space. So thinking of somebody right now in another part of the world, they can feel it and sense it if they're tuned in. And when we meditate, we learn to tune in to our intuitive thoughts. We don't learn to, it just happens because it's a natural state. We are connected. And we feel, but not if we're so focused on a result that we can't connect with the moment, or not if we're so upset about not achieving a certain thing by a certain time, or so concerned about somebody leaving us, or what, whatever. So if we're upset, we're in the waves, then we can't feel the intuitive. We don't know, what's right and what's wrong. And so we're always trying to manage our lives based on, teachings of our mom and dad, or teachings of, but so we're trying to we're not connected to the universal intelligence. We're trying to manage our lives with a very limited resource. And so that's why I meditate. And as I told you, I was going to tell you, I have a confession to make. In a way, I believe this is a spiritual principle. And spiritual principles are like, I don't know, do unto others as you have them do unto you. You get back what you put out. I think those are kind of, spiritual principles. And my confession is that in a way, I'm using you. I recognize that if we help enough people to lift up, that we also get lifted up. I personally want to rise above many things in my life. I personally have I don't even know if it's a desire or just a yearning to be connected to spirit, to God in each moment. And I got in my mind some time ago that if we give this away, whatever it is, wherever we're at right now, if we help others to see their innermost power, to find their innermost love, that we also are lifted up. And so that's my confession. And I hope my confession inspires some of us to do the same thing, to, kind of like to commission you actually to go help lots and lots of people. This is a time of awakening that's happening. And there's many, there's huge need for frontline workers to carry a message of love. And if you carry this message of love, James, to many people, it lifts us up. And when we're living in love, when we're living in unconditional love and beyond, there's so much that it just begins, it puts us in a place where we can continually give this away. And it opens up the flow of intuition, so we're totally connected to what's going on in the upper realms. We're not stuck in fear and guilt and shame and desire. So my job, selfishly, is to help others to move out of that way, out of anger. And sometimes it seems like I use a little anger to help people move out of anger, but to move out of those things so that we can experience states of gratitude and states of acceptance, states of love. And live in love. Who wants to live that way, in love? I think we all do. And we have to, we kind of, if we put that first, if we actually put that first, that connection with universal intelligence, with God, with love, as a singular, most important priority in our life, everything else is added onto us. Everything else comes as a result of that. And I missed that for so many years. I knew about this thing I'm talking about, 30, 40 years ago. And I missed, for years, I focused on business success, and I focused on, trying to get love, or trying to earn love instead of being love. And when we meditate, we get to drop into that space. It's the beginning. It's the end as well, but it's a piece of the whole thing. So I encourage you. We're going to meditate right now for a few minutes, and yeah. If you have any questions, hi Jennifer, hi Ashley, hi David, Tracy, James, Sandy. If you have any questions, post them. I'm also watching on Facebook. I can see your questions, and that would be great. So this is let's meditate for a few minutes. Let's sit, and when we meditate right now, let's kind of consciously set the intention to drop into a state of love, a state of surrender. So, when we really surrender, we go to our natural state, which is love. So we don't have to focus on love. We just be nothing. Let go of your idea of you as a leader, or you as a father, or you as a mother, or you as a husband or a wife, or as anything, Canadian, or just let go of all of those things just for this little 10 minutes, and you will drop into your natural state, which is love. You will drop into. You can't take anything there with you. So if we're holding on to any concepts or ideas, just let them go. Just be in a state of nothing, no thought if possible. And we're just going to take, 10 minutes. I set a little timer, and we're going to drop in. So close your eyes, find a comfortable spot, and imagine that this love that you want, that you've kind of looked for, is you actually, is us. And that outside it can't be found. So we let go of all of our ideas of outside, of all of our story, just for a minute, about whether we're too old, or whether we're too fat, or whether we're too tall, or we're too skinny, whether we're unlovable, whether we're good in relationship or not good in relationship. Just let it all go. Just drop into the breath. Just let it go. Here we go. And we breathe. We drop into our body. But even we're going to let go of the body. Just drop into this moment, into this space. We'll let go of everything. Just for a minute. It is who we are naturally. We are love. In this moment, we are God. In this moment. Nothing else works but surrender. How do we be in this moment? Just come with your breath. Watch the breath, but then go past the breath. Let go of the breath. Just know that it all works on its own. Thank you, thank you, yes, thank you. Just drop in, quietly sit, surrender this moment, just this moment. Relax your body, just feel it start to melt as we melt out of it into this moment with no time, no space. Remember, we are love. We don't have to focus on love. We are love. Love is not outside of us. Love is who we are. In love, there's no fear. We let go of fear. In love, there's no judgment. We let go of judgment. In love, there's no complaint. We let go of complaint. Sometimes when we meditate and the thoughts are still running, we can use a technique called mindful meditation. So we just watch them. We don't get attached, we just watch them. Eventually we can drop past them. We just watch. Mm. Let's come back. Let's drop back in. Thank you. Wow. Hey, Trevor. Hey, James. Nathaniel. You guys, anything come up for you in your meditation?
It did. I came through that I should get on doing a live tomorrow morning on the UC page offering my service to do some conscious support. So basically, letting people reach out to me and doing Zoom calls and in whatever energy exchange that they can afford.
You can use this medium to plug that right now. I hear you. Yes. So is that what happens for you in meditation? Like ideas come?
Yeah.
Do you ever have just a quiet? Does it ever just go quiet?
For moments, yeah. But I think because I'm always asking questions. My mind is always asking questions to the universe. So then when I'm meditating, that's usually when the answer comes. It's like, get up, do this. It's like, get up and go to the bathroom.
Nice. Well, I guess something like that came up really early in my meditation, because I had said that the idea that I recognize if we help enough people in some way, if we offer enough service, if we help people lift up, that we get lifted up. That, you know, we're lifted up on the same wave, and I recognized when I was listening to that video a few minutes ago with Russell Brand talking to the TM guy, David, forget David's last name in the moment, that he said that yes, meditation was so important, but we have to do the other work as well. And to see, most of us, it's hard for us to see that ego separates us from the now. Ego wants to run the show. Imagine just for a minute, that we could actually surrender to a level where we didn't allow Lynch. That's right. Thank you. One of my friends, Nicole, just put David Lynch is his name, the guy, the TM guy. If we could just surrender, possibly, because this is the promise of most of the practices, that we could be so connected, or at such a unconditional love level, that we didn't rely on the mind, that the mind was only to receive direction, and that, you know, other than to tie our shoes or to remember to put oil in the car, but even that could be totally in the flow, where we literally would never be in a stressful, worried, fearful, anxious state ever, because we would be totally in a lifted up, unconditional love, blissful, you know, in the 500 or 600s that David Hawkins talks about, that's possible. And that if we knew about that, if the teachers have told us that, if Alan Watts talks about it, you know, why would we want to live at anything below that? You know, why would we want to live anywhere below that? For me, the idea of and I struggle. Maybe some of you guys don't, but I still struggle with ego. I still struggle with, you know, with wanting things sometimes to be different, or not accepting life as it is in each moment. I still have that still comes up for me. I haven't reached a state of absolute 100% acceptance, and I think that so I need to really, I believe, stay on the front line to help others reach that state, so I can you know, also join them in that oneness state.
I think that for me, the more I'm giving, or the more I'm in service, the more I'm letting go of myself.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yes.
Right. So yeah, so then you're living in that place of love, unconditional love. It's like the ego kind of drops away, but then it can sometimes creep in there too. But
yes. Yeah, it sure can. So that's exactly what I'm saying, is that there's the possibility to live in that space, and why would we want to not? That's the thing, and but I don't know that it's talked about much. You know, I don't think that, I mean, of course, when you imagine that just 2 regular guys or 4 regular guys like us are on a call like this, And we're talking about living in a state of bliss. We're talking about living beyond our, you know, our management skills that we got in our youth. And I know a bit about everyone that's here. We've all struggled. You know, we've all struggled with life. We all had, you know, rough times and rough childhoods and rough, you know, and so here we are talking about living in bliss. You know, and meditation's a part of that. You know, many of us maybe only want to meditate so that we can relieve some of the strain and stress. But I think some of us would really enjoy living in a very heightened state, and I think it's possible. It is possible to live in a total state of acceptance in each moment. You know, and I don't think we have to be dead to get there. I think that we can do that in life, to live in total acceptance. And that's you know, and I honestly think, because I and it's only been not that long for me when I really surrendered, you know, when I had this glimpse, this opening, and I really recognized, my gosh, you know, I have struggled my whole life to get my way. I've struggled my whole life to get my way, and I didn't know it when it was happening. And, you know, 40 years of the work, and I still didn't realize that I was struggling to get my way. And now, having had glimpses of absolute surrender, and having had the experience of surrender, you know, and fighting with it sometimes, but I know that we can live in a surrendered state, in an accepted state, and still create amazing on the planet. You know, actually trying to get my way, I think I couldn't create. You know, I really had to learn to surrender. Anyway, but
I think it's because we liked swimming upstream for so long that it finally we just got tired of it.
yeah, maybe.
It's like, I'm just going to lay on my back now and go with the flow.
Well, yes. Stay in the middle of the pack, stay in the middle of the stream. Yes. You know, so how do I do that? Well, for me, and Trevor and I were talking about it earlier, like a constant state of prayer. You know, guide me and strengthen me, guide me, show me how you have me to be, guide me, show me what you have me to be. Just a constant state of prayer, whatever it is. You know, we many of us get caught up in this idea of a concept of God, you know, but let's imagine that the depth that we're talking about inside of us, you know, be still and know that I'm God. We call it God because we don't know what else to call it. You know, there is no, we can call it universal intelligence. We can call it the quantum field. Deepak Chopra, you know, talks a lot about the, you know, the physics of it, or the quantum physics, you know, but it is real, and we can be in it. And in the state of being in it, our natural state of being in it is a state of love. I believe my experience of it is a state of bliss and love. So, but I do struggle with it a bit. I do. Anyway, Trevor, any thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important, like, even though sometimes not thinking of anything is sometimes the goal, I guess. I think that, as James said earlier, like, ideas, when they occur to you during meditation, that's really important, because you were talking about David Lynch earlier. He's actually one of my favorite filmmakers. And most of his ideas, he wrote a book called Catching the Big Fish, which I read. And I also just read his biography not too long ago.
No way.
Yeah, he's like one of my favorite filmmakers. But he talks about ideas coming to people during meditation. He's a proponent of transcendental meditation, but essentially, like, yeah, like, that's where ideas come from to begin with. So when you're accessing like the deep levels of consciousness and ideas occur, that's ultimately where creativity is. It's our brains that kind of like filter the ideas afterwards. So it's like diving deep, right? And the deeper you dive, the more consciousness there is. And that's where all the ideas lay. And they're unfiltered and they're all kind of a unified sort of thing. And he like, yeah, he's, you know, like just like the material world where like, you know, you have objects and you go smaller and smaller, then like, you know, particles and then or molecules and then atoms and then, you know, electrons, which when you view an electron, like they behave like they're conscious, right? So it's as in the material world, same with the mental world, right? It's like,
Would you call it the mental world or the spiritual world, or is there?
I would say that, like, you know, you draw yourself back enough, keep drawing back. And
Metaphysical.
yeah, I mean, like it's, yeah, I don't know, there's a deep level of consciousness, right? Just like there's like a deep level of the physical world. And and scientists have discovered, and they're discovering more and more, that electrons behave like they're conscious, like they know when they're being watched. That's what quantum mechanics basically is. So like it's, if you go small enough, that's what it all is anyways. Even in the physical world, it's just consciousness. So yeah, that's really interesting. And a thing that I heard really like from a person, I'm not gonna name names, but he started mentioning stuff about the brain being used as a tool, right? Like the brain's supposed to work for the heart. You know, that's why we were given a brain, is so that it works. It's the brain isn't the master of everything. And if we use it as the master for everything and use it to master our world, we get in deep trouble. But if we use the brain as a tool for the heart, or, you know, God, whatever you want to call it, and use that as the guiding force and just use the brain as the tool, like it's our tool. We're the master of it. It's not the master of us. So I think that, yeah, learning how to view the brain is just like.
So mindful meditation allows us to see the brain, we call it often the ego, as it's struggling because it's been the master for quite some time with many of us. And it's actually so tricky. It's hard to tell sometimes whether we're listening to heart or God or universal intelligence, or whether it's the tricky little mind telling us, you know, still trying to run the show.
Well, I think that it's also because, like, I think I'm my brain, right?
Yes.
I've thought that for my entire life, that I am my brain. And so, you know, I thought that, you know, looking after selfish things like money and material things and
they don't have to be selfish. It's just how we deal with it. That if we're looking after it from a fear base, right?
Well, if I'm using my brain as a tool to work in this world from a place of love, then
yes,
then I'm using the brain in the proper way, right?
Yes.
Or in a way that, like, it's always going to be, I'll always be satisfied because I'm always helping somebody or doing something, something pure. For lack of a better word, I'm going to use the word pure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's all a work in process, though. I don't have all this figured out. Nor am I supposed to. I just think that you're asking what came up in the meditation for me was not much of anything. I was trying to, you know, every time a thought would come up, I would just kind of let it float by. But I was talking about kind of what I thought about the conversations that we've had so far as well. So, which I think is really interesting because, like, yeah, I mean, if talking about David Lynch, I mean, I'm a little bit obsessed with him because he's like my absolute favorite filmmaker.
So you were surprised that I would bring up your favorite filmmaker in this meditation. I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I always kind of hinted at him to you, David. I was just like, David Lynch, he's like an amazing filmmaker and he's really into meditation and stuff. So
Trevor
yeah,
manifested him into David's life through
yeah,
Russell.
the other Russell Brand.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because I just turned the computer on about 6:30 and my YouTube notifications come up and there was Russell saying, the lead in was, meditation, does it work? And I thought, well, let's have a look at this because, and Russell was interviewing David Lynch and then not only did it do a little 10-minute snippet, but it went into the second 10-minute snippet of Lynch and talking about the 3 different types of meditation that, and I've actually watched, 2 or 3 hour interviews with David before. He's quite something, and
yeah, he's a character.
yeah.
Yeah, watching his films, you can tell they're kind of mind.
I had no idea that you
begin
knew.
with.
So here's the tricky thing, you guys. When a thought comes with emotion, so a fear comes up. Oh my God, I can't pay the rent. And that thought comes with fear. I'm going to be on the street. And we then drop into, we're not then in universal intelligence. We've been taken out of that connection by the fear. What do we do?
What do I do?
Yeah.
Usually let it grip me for a little bit
Right.
and then recognize that I'm in it and then bring awareness to it and sit and meditate and allow it to move and let the emotion to actually move instead of suppressing the emotion and trapping it inside my body so I'm constricted and have no way out in my mind. I think that I'm just like, that's the world's coming to an end.
Yeah.
Sky is falling.
So the way out is through consciousness, through awareness, through love, through meditation, through a recognition of a higher power, if you will.
Yeah, and the more I do that work, the faster I can bring my awareness to it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
before, I think that it seems more, the experience seems stronger now. And I don't know if that's what's happening in the world or if it's just happening to me, but the experience seems stronger, but it brings my awareness to it faster so that I can actually, okay, I'm in this experience, I'm feeling this fear, so I can sit down, something's triggered me, and I can let it pass and move. Which I think in my past, it was just always there.
Yes.
So I never really, I was always in it. Even if it was just subtle, it was
Okay.
always there.
I think
Because I was always, in my mind, I was always looking for
problems.
things to be scared of.
Yeah. Yeah. The ego does that. That's the ego's job, isn't it? To be always searching, looking for drama, looking for trauma, looking for problems, looking for things that it thinks aren't right, because ego's a judging tool. It's always judging right and wrong and good and bad. And, we don't really know anything, but
The judge and juror.
yes, that we think it is. I mean, the truth is, can't pay the rent might mean that you end up in a beautiful place beyond what you could have imagined. Oh, I think I've seen that actually. Jennifer Donovan is saying the energy is so strong, Leslie. Also, I find my senses are heightened totally. But I've been hearing this, and I don't know what you guys think. I've been hearing this, that there really is a shift happening on the planet. Now, I mean, I've been around in this kind of metaphysical world for a long time, and I've heard it before. But this is there does seem to be a heightened awareness, a heightened consciousness happening. And I think you just spoke about it, James. Nathaniel, are you seeing that?
Am I seeing a heightened level of consciousness in the people around me?
Yes. Or in yourself?
In myself, yeah, I feel a lot more aware than I have for the past few years. Um, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel fairly connected most of the time when I'm walking around. So I guess it's a benefit of meditating as much as I've been meditating lately.
See, the four of us here, I know you guys really well, on a what's important in our life type of thing. Consciousness, connection with universal intelligence or God is very high, I think, on the value list of all four of us. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
yes, and you know, it's
I,
just
I have to, I have to because I recognize what my fear and my judgments and what my subconscious mind is capable of and the havoc that it can wreak in my life. You know, when I get stuck in my negative emotions, it's just negative all the time. You know, so to be able to connect to love or consciousness or a peaceful sensation inside of myself and heightened awareness, to let go of all the fears and judgments and complaints and all these things that hold me back. It's essential for me, basically. If I want to live a productive life at all, I have to constantly be connecting to that as much as I can.
so you have a practice.
Yeah, I do. I practice mindfulness a lot of the time as I go about my day, and that yeah, I usually use grounding techniques and mindfulness whenever I find myself getting stuck in my ego, as you would say, or getting stuck in my mind or in negative emotions, right?
How about a
And
morning practice? Start the day.
morning practice, yeah. So that's a short practice, but I wake up and I say my prayers. I shake the cobwebs out of my head and I set my intentions for the day. Um, I'll stop and think for a couple of minutes, try to plan what's going on in my day, and prioritize the things I need to do. I just set my intention to go around and you know feel as peaceful as I possibly can and be as dignified of a human being and treat other people as well as I can. You know,
Nice. So I recognize that one of the kind of key ingredients in this whole thing is humility, and that that when I humbly ask, I believe that whatever this intelligence is, whatever this consciousness we're living in is, it is intelligent. It actually can perceive us as individuals, and so, but the perception, um, the pathway um, is paved with humility and gratitude. So when I'm grateful and I'm feeling some humility, and the humility for me is in the I don't if I really recognize that I don't know, that I don't know in a sense of because when I think I know, it's generally my ego judging right or wrong, good or bad, and so when I go to a place of not knowing, when I say, my prayer is really simple. Like I ask for help. I just say, God, please help me. Which is very humbling. Or it's a humble prayer. It's just God, please help me. Because I if I'm asking for something like this particular, then I'm again trying to write the script, and I'd rather be in a God please help me, which is a very humble, I think, not humbling prayer, and humility, I think, is the key, to connecting with that universal intelligence and allowing us to feel the grace or feel the gift, and so that's often my prayer, and of course gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I was watching
well,
Mookie.
I like what you're saying there about humility and gratitude. And I think that person who has both those things, somebody who's experienced hardships in their life, and then have it gone to an extreme where they're really just looking for a way out of the pain that they're in. you know, to find that way out through meditation. Um, I think you know, if a person is looking for a way out of that pain, then I think they've been humble, and they're
Well,
humbly looking for a way out. And
well,
when they finally see it, they become grateful, right? And so it gives them more encouragement for a person to continue practice. I guess saying that,
see,
yeah,
most of us, like the four of us here, have already found a way out. In
yeah,
a way, we're not living. We have Cadillac problems. Really, we're living in a pretty amazing world, and none of us are deep in substance abuse, or none of us are deep in in terrible relationship abuse, and we've got pretty our lives are pretty amazing, and knowing what I know about all of us here, our goal is to serve at a higher level,
mhm,
to be more service, and so when I'm saying, God, please help me, it isn't to relieve me of some burden. It's more to help me to be of more service.
mhm,
Well,
You
and
know
that's
what I mean?
my prayer is to be more honest with myself and with others, and then recognizing the lesson when I'm not. So seeing when I'm not being integrity, and being humble and acknowledging that I'm not being honest with myself or with others, and not judging myself for it, but acknowledging it and releasing it and owning that I've done this, but I can move forward.
So then that is a get me out of here prayer. That the surrender of God, please help me is kind of doesn't have any judgment on what it is that actually really leaving it up to the universe in what area I most need help.
Mm.
And it sometimes has come back to this area of integrity, but I'm just leaving it. I'm not trying to direct it. So just a simple prayer. God, please help me. It's just a thought.
Yeah.
And Muji, the other day, I was watching a video, and he said, "Thank you, thank you." That was his meditation. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. A million thank yous. Just thank you, not for anything in particular. Just thank you. And it was so, it's like what a relieving prayer. Just a thank you prayer, and it's has a potential to lift us so much. It's interesting. The cliche of I think, be thyself, love thyself, is what I'm hoping. My thing is to get past the self. Myself, my image of myself is generally based on my the way I've been programmed. Do you know what I mean? When I did the Enlightenment Intensive last fall, and I recognized that there was no self. There was no self, because the question was, tell me who you are, tell me who you are, tell me who you are, a million times. When I dropped past the self, so I think at one level, somebody had wrote down, be thyself, know thyself, love thyself. In we can get caught there in the self, and my intention with meditation is to drop past the self into this not self-directed but God-directed, not self-centered but God-centered style of living, or universal intelligence. We call it God because it's so hard to describe it. Anyway, I don't know. It's so hard to talk about because we're so conditioned to believe that we have the answers. And I just recognize over and over and over and over and over again, I've proven it to myself so many times, I do not know from my ego. I have to surrender. I have to say, please help me, because when I'm running the show, my conditioning has me always dropping back into fear, always dropping back into what about me, always trying to control. And I have to let this moment, and how do I stay connected to the moment? Well, to know when I'm not there helps me to surrender and be there. And any other thoughts, you guys, before we go? I just run on.
Yeah, so I had an interesting experience just the other day. Just talking to a guy who was he was stuck. He was definitely stuck in anger, you know. And so it was great to say to him, anger is just a cover emotion. It's something that's in your mind. It comes up from other emotions like vulnerability or being scared or feeling like the world's against you or feeling like nobody loves you.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started talking to him about love, and I said, basically laid it out that he's probably so angry because underneath it all, he feels like he's not loved in the moment. Just aware of what I was aware of the gentleman. That stopped him in his tracks, and that's the second or third conversation that I had with a gentleman who was struggling and angry and stuck in the macho ego. And when I talked to him and got to know him a little bit more, and said, "Well, you're probably so angry because you feel like you're not being loved, or or the world doesn't love you." And it's just to see the gentleman stop in their tracks and then joke about it, like, "Oh, well, that's just foolish," but it's true though. So talking about love and encouraging people to connect to love inside of themselves, to recognize that they need it, that they are it, that they have it to give, that they can exist in it and connect to it at any given time. It's their own choice. I think that's a very, very useful thing, right? Love is just something that everybody needs. Every human being needs it from the day we were born. So appreciate what you're doing, David. I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
We were talking about that today. Do you think emotion is in the mind or in the body?
So I think that feelings come from the body. I think emotions are the truth. I think that the thoughts that lead to them are, can be false, but the emotions are real things. So to me, I think that.
But emotion is motion, so energy moving. So that's the energy that's moving through the body, through all things. So is that coming from the mind or from the body?
I think it's generated from the mind.
Well,
we were just having this discussion today, so that's why I was just wondering.
The only thing that I have to say about that is that the I am, which is beyond this, is also beyond the emotion, beyond the mind, beyond the body, beyond this plane, and it was here before the emotion. It's here after the emotion. It was here before I came. It'll be here after we are in it. And sometimes what happens with emotion is it takes me into a very small place, because emotion, either I'm addicted to emotion, I can be addicted to emotion. I can be, or I can be resistant to emotion because I don't want to feel it. And so often, like Nathaniel just said about emotion or about anger, often my go-to, if an emotion kind of grabs me or something I don't want to feel, will be anger, to keep myself from feeling. And, I'm still still becoming, I'm still growing in these
So
things.
Do you think the emotion is a trapped energy or emotion, like something that we've trapped in our body from trauma or an experience that we've had in our past, and that's what keeps coming up every time we experience something, that it triggers that energy and we're not allowing it to actually flow? We're like, it's been trapped inside of us.
Well, kind of, yes. I think that there's an opportunity. I know in my men's team for years, we would do like what we call a push, where maybe 6 or 8 men would hold a man and allow him to drop into his anger and really, and experience it and move it. And it would be quite healthy. It would be, at the end, it might end in laughter. It might end in tears. It might end in, because it would really move this. And so, yes, I think that there's healthy places to
So the more we don't acknowledge it and suppress it without
Yeah.
actually allowing ourselves to experience it,
Yeah.
we're actually trapping it, so that when I'm driving down the street and somebody cuts me off, it triggers that energy and I want to get out and just beat the crap out of them. But it had nothing to do with that person. It actually
Yeah.
had to do with that
Yeah.
energy or that emotion that I didn't release
Yeah.
20 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever we want to call it.
Yes.
So when somebody's experiencing that anger, try to get them to actually let it go, like find that release for them. Don't
Well, look, we could see you've been to men's team already.
well, I've just been doing it for my own personal stuff, is
Yeah.
with Elisa, is allowing that energy to come up and move in a safe environment, so that it's
Yes.
not where it's not going to harm anybody, but it's
Yeah.
going to allow us to move it.
Hmm.
And so that with that gentleman that was angry, he had every right to be angry.
gentleman?
That's his energy that's built up. So to get him to express it in a safe way is really our goal. Is for us to be in service, is to get them to be able to feel safe enough so that they can express that energy
Yes. Yes.
and let it move
Yeah.
through.
I have a
That's
friend
being in
that
true service.
I've been spending time with recently, and she has stuff, emotion that's doesn't, but I would love to help to have her move, and yes, I think that we can be frozen and in an old emotion. I think that maybe all of us have some of that in us. Body work helps too, like deep tissue.
Yeah, like I mean, it's in our muscles. It's
Yeah, it's in this system, but there is a place beyond this, where we can, through meditation, where we can drop beyond this, and that will allow things to move. But I think you know body work is can help with that, and I think having
Well, I think the meditation brings awareness to it and brings loving awareness to those aspects of that energy, so that we can maybe learn to release it in a safe way
yes,
instead
and
of rage or violence
yes, yeah, I
or
agree.
alcohol.
Yeah, well, alcohol for many of us was an answer.
Suppressing it. Stop.
Yes.
Like trying. I do it with.
Yeah.
I'll put on Netflix because I don't want to deal with it.
Sure. Well, this is what happens. We, not none of us in this crowd, but for years I suppressed my emotion with drugs and alcohol, and it was my go-to. I didn't have another go-to until I began a spiritual way of living. And even in my spiritual way of living, many of my early days, I had other ways of dealing with it, whether it was with food or sex or or work, so that I didn't have to be present. And now, my sole mission is to be present and to feel. And when anger comes up, and it does, I mean, I'm in a house full of men, so it's safe for me to be sometimes to drop into it here, isn't it? But so to move our energy, I think is really important, to find friends that we can that love us, to allow us to scream. I think screaming, all of that stuff can be just a lot of fun to move out of that energy that's trapped in the body. Jennifer was on Facebook just now, and she said, we have lifetimes of it, and whether we do or we don't, whether we have lifetimes of it or whether it's just, it's here from this lifetime, doesn't matter. It's just like, yes, if you want to move it, let's move it. Be present with it.
Dance is a good one. Ecstatic dance. David, you like to dance?
Yes, let's dance. Let's dance and
singing. Even if,
like,
I mean, that's Nathaniel. Nathaniel, you have your outlet. Your tool is music, so you can move that energy through that.
Yeah,
tool.
sometimes.
Each of us have a way to
use
move
physical
that.
exercise too. You might catch me screaming at this clouds from time to time.
And art can be an expression.
Yeah. Like
You know,
Journaling helps.
we each have a gift that we've been given to express that energy.
one of the things that my son Regan goes to an ashram often in India. It's Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh's old ashram, Osho, and they have endless courses on how to move the energy. He went every day to a laughing, like for 7 days, a laughing course, and they just all laughed, and in their laughter came tears, and and then they would laugh and and it would just and can you imagine doing that for like 8 hours of and you drop into it, and the energy would just move, and because those things are important, I think, to do that. And meditation is a tool, but there are many others. Yes.
We weren't taught this as children, about energy and moving energy. We were told not to cry, not to feel.
Well, yes, of course, all of that is true. And
so as teachers, and for us where we're at, is that's what we should be doing, is showing people that there's tools to use that. And especially if we're working with children, to do that.
Yes.
I try to do that with my kids.
So that's a good segue into what, how I'd like to finish tonight. Well, we're going to finish with a meditation, but I'd like to finish with, I commission you all, I deputize you all. Not that I can do this, but to carry this message, not just the four of us here, but there's people, sometimes 700-800 people will watch this, and to carry this message of love, to help others to listen, to be good listeners, to show we care. Love is an action word, so if we know that somebody's in pain, sit with them, sit with them and be with them. And if they want to scream, go outside with them and let them scream. Be there to hold the space for them, and to move through the energy and find the acceptance and love on the other side of that, and we're so afraid of being judged for, because of our energy or our thoughts or our emotions. So just do it. And
we're afraid to feel. And that's why when somebody's feeling, we get triggered, because we don't want to feel. And so we don't want them to feel.
Often. And so watch when that comes up, James. Watch when that comes up, when you make humor or you speak in the middle of somebody else speaking. Often it's ego not wanting to hear. Often it is. And watch that, because, when it's there, something wants to move, allow it to move. And sometimes we have to be quiet. We have to be with people and say, I'm here for you right now. Let's, if this is happening now, and
yes,
and hold them and love them, and we have the little house we have. There's four of us here that are sober, but we have spirituality is high value. We have personal development, consciousness is a high value, and it's beautiful to live with people that are on that plane, that want to not only grow ourselves, but to serve others in that growth, and James, I think, you're bringing a whole crew of people together that are going to do that, and that are doing that now, and they're just going to come and do it under one roof. And, so get at it, buddy. Let's all be out there serving on a daily basis. How can we help folks to awaken? Because I think the planet is awakening more and more. I mean, we're becoming more conscious, and it's up to us. If it's meant to be, it's up to me, and
Excuse me.
yes.
I've got to let you know what my phone is really about to die, so I might disappear at any given moment. I'm not trying to be rude. I just can't charge it because my charging port's broken.
Okay. Well, love you. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we're going to take a short meditation to finish. And if you leave in the middle of it, you can continue to meditate. And so let's just take a minute to drop in again, and, to recognize that, we are love. And when we drop into that space, that innermost space, we get to access, the all there is in the planet. You know, when we're not connected, when we're running from ego, we have such a limited resource, our own thoughts, you know, our own desires. It's very limited. So there isn't, I call it like the mainframe, you know, you can plug in and to, you know, to the web, to the universal web, to the universal intelligence through meditation. And when we, you know, we set the intention to be free of fear and anger and judgment, those are the things that block us off from that sunlight of the spirit. Those are the things that keep us from accessing, you know, anger and fear and judgment and selfishness. You know, we just set the intention to let go of that in this meditation in any way that we can. You know, the desire to be right, just let it go. There is no right. There's just now. In this moment, where all things are, is in this moment now. So we're just going to sit for a few minutes. Thank you. Thank you, you guys. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks, James.
Love you.
Love you too, bro. Thanks. Okay, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. And, you know, I'm available at any time if you want to deal with some of those things that are coming up for you. Yeah, I'm here for that. And love it if you follow us on YouTube. We're building our YouTube channel. Love that. Thanks. It's our little thing. Okay.
Have a good night. Stay well, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, James. Okay. Bye.